Imagine being a Roman citizen in the year 15 AD. The greatest empire on earth still stretched across 3 continents. Roman roads connected distant provinces, Roman armies guarded vast frontiers, and Roman ships dominated the Mediterranean Sea. Yet despite all this power, Rome was haunted by a humiliation it could not forget. Deep inside the forests of Germania, 3 sacred Roman eagles had been lost years earlier. To outsiders they were merely military standards, but to Romans they represented the honor, pride, and soul of a legion. Their loss was considered one of the greatest disgraces in Roman history. Now, under the rule of Emperor Tiberius, Rome wanted revenge. More importantly, Rome wanted its lost honor back. When Augustus died in 14 AD, the Roman Empire entered a new chapter. Tiberius became emperor and inherited a state that was stable, wealthy, and militarily powerful. However, he also inherited Rome's unresolved problem in Germania. The disastrous defeat that had shocked the empire years earlier still influenced Roman politics and military planning. Many Romans believed that their empire could not fully recover until the Germanic tribes were punished and the lost eagles were recovered. The responsibility for this mission largely fell upon one of Rome's most talented commanders, Germanicus. Germanicus was admired throughout the empire. He was young, charismatic, intelligent, and highly respected by both soldiers and civilians. Roman troops loved him because he shared their hardships and inspired confidence. Many people even believed that Germanicus possessed the qualities of a future emperor. His popularity extended far beyond the military, making him one of the most influential figures of his generation. As tensions along the Rhine frontier continued, Germanicus emerged as the man who would attempt to restore Roman prestige. Across the frontier, however, the situation looked very different. Germania remained outside direct Roman control. The region was filled with dense forests, rivers, marshlands, and independent tribes. Unlike the organized provinces of Rome, Germania was divided among numerous tribal groups with their own leaders and traditions. Yet one name continued to dominate discussions throughout the region: Arminius. The warrior who had once served Rome had become a legendary figure among many Germanic tribes. His victory against Rome had elevated him to almost mythical status, and many tribes viewed him as the defender of their independence. As Roman forces prepared for new campaigns, the struggle became more than a simple military conflict. It was now a contest between 2 remarkable leaders. On one side stood Germanicus, representing the world's most powerful empire. On the other stood Arminius, representing resistance against that empire. Their rivalry would define this period of history and become one of the most fascinating confrontations of the ancient world. During the early years of this period, Roman armies concentrated along the Rhine River. Massive military camps were established, supplies were gathered, and thousands of soldiers prepared for operations beyond the frontier. Roman engineers played a critical role in these preparations. Roads were improved, bridges were constructed, and river transport systems were organized to move troops efficiently. The Roman military machine was once again preparing to enter Germania, but this time the objective was not simply conquest. Rome wanted to prove that its power remained unmatched. One of the most emotional moments of these campaigns occurred when Roman forces reached areas connected to the earlier disaster. Ancient sources describe how Roman soldiers discovered battlefields where the remains of their fallen comrades still lay scattered years after the defeat. These grim scenes deeply affected the army. Soldiers who had never witnessed the original catastrophe suddenly found themselves standing among its consequences. The memory of the dead strengthened their determination and transformed the campaign into something personal. They were no longer fighting solely for territory. They were fighting for honor. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the world, major civilizations continued their own development. In the East, the Han dynasty remained one of the most advanced states on Earth. Its government managed vast territories through an organized bureaucracy that collected taxes, supervised agriculture, and maintained stability across millions of people. The city of Chang'an remained one of the largest urban centers in existence, attracting merchants, officials, and scholars from distant regions. Chinese silk continued to travel across long-distance trade routes, eventually reaching markets connected to the Roman world. Trade also flourished across the Indian Ocean. Merchants from India transported spices, gemstones, textiles, and luxury goods to ports throughout Asia and the Middle East. Roman merchants eagerly purchased many of these products, creating economic links between civilizations separated by thousands of kilometers. Although most people living in Rome would never see China, and most people living in China would never visit Rome, commerce connected their worlds in remarkable ways. Back in Germania, however, events were moving toward a dramatic confrontation. Roman scouts gathered intelligence on tribal movements while Germanic leaders monitored Roman advances. Both sides understood that future battles could shape the balance of power for years to come. Yet hidden beneath these military preparations remained the mystery that obsessed Rome. The lost eagles had still not been fully recovered. Somewhere beyond the frontier, symbols of Rome's greatest humiliation remained outside imperial control. As Germanicus advanced deeper into Germania, hopes grew throughout the empire. Many Romans believed that the young commander would succeed where others had failed. His campaigns were carefully planned, his troops were experienced, and his determination seemed unstoppable. Yet Arminius remained free, the tribes remained defiant, and the forests of Germania continued to hide their secrets. The stage was now set for one of the most important chapters in Rome's struggle against Germania. The search for revenge, the rivalry between Germanicus and Arminius, and the mystery of the lost eagles were about to reach a critical turning point. As Roman armies pushed deeper into Germania, the campaign became more than a military operation. It became a mission to restore Rome's pride. Across the empire, people followed news from the frontier with great interest. Years had passed since the disaster that had shaken Roman confidence, yet the memory remained fresh. Every soldier marching under Germanicus understood that they were carrying the expectations of an empire that wanted justice, revenge, and the recovery of the sacred symbols that had been lost. By 16 AD, Germanicus launched some of the largest Roman operations ever conducted in Germania. Thousands of soldiers crossed rivers, moved through forests, and advanced into territories that Rome had once hoped to conquer permanently. Roman engineering once again demonstrated its importance. Temporary bridges, supply depots, and transport systems allowed large armies to operate far from established provinces. The empire's ability to organize men and resources remained one of its greatest strengths. Arminius, however, was not an ordinary opponent. He knew Roman strategy and understood how to use the geography of Germania to his advantage. Instead of confronting Roman armies in ways that favored Rome, he relied on mobility, local knowledge, and support from tribal warriors. His influence remained strong among many Germanic groups, and his reputation as the man who had defeated Rome continued to inspire resistance. While Germanicus represented imperial power, Arminius represented independence and defiance. One of the most important confrontations of this period occurred during the campaigns that led to the Battle of Edistaviso. Ancient sources describe fierce fighting between Roman forces and the warriors loyal to Arminius. Roman discipline and organization proved highly effective in open battle. Germanicus achieved significant victories and demonstrated that Rome could still dominate major military engagements. For many Romans, these victories were proof that the empire had regained its strength after earlier setbacks. Yet the true objective extended beyond winning battles. The mystery that had haunted Rome for years still remained. The lost eagles of the destroyed legions were symbols of Roman honor, and recovering them became a matter of national pride. Roman commanders searched relentlessly for information regarding their whereabouts. Every success in Germania brought the possibility that one of these sacred standards might finally be recovered. Gradually, Rome achieved part of its goal. During these campaigns, some of the lost standards were recovered from the Germanic tribes. Across the empire, the news was celebrated. To modern observers, recovering military symbols may seem like a minor event, but for Romans it carried enormous emotional importance. These eagles represented the spirit of the legions that had been destroyed. Their recovery allowed Rome to reclaim part of the honor it believed had been lost forever. This recovery also resolved one of the great mysteries of the age. For years, Romans had wondered what had happened to the sacred standards after the disaster in Germania. Their fate had become a symbol of uncertainty and humiliation. Now, as some were returned to Roman hands, the empire could finally claim that part of the wound had healed. Although complete victory remained elusive, the psychological impact was immense. Meanwhile, beyond the battlefields, the ancient world continued to evolve. Rome remained the dominant power of the Mediterranean, with trade flowing through its ports and cities. Rome itself remained one of the largest urban centers on Earth. Alexandria continued to thrive as a center of commerce and knowledge, connecting different regions through maritime trade. Merchants carried grain from Egypt, wine from Italy, metals from Spain, and luxury goods from distant lands. Far to the east, the Han Dynasty continued governing one of the world's largest populations. Chinese administrators maintained order through an extensive bureaucracy, while merchants transported silk across long-distance trade routes. Chang'an remained a center of political authority and economic activity. The connections between East and West grew stronger through trade, even though most people living in these civilizations never met one another directly. Technology during this period advanced through practical improvements rather than dramatic inventions. Roman engineers refined military infrastructure, maintained roads, strengthened bridges, and improved transportation systems. These developments allowed armies and merchants to move efficiently across enormous distances. In China, administrative techniques and agricultural management continued improving, helping support a large and stable population. Throughout the ancient world, iron tools, construction methods, and transportation networks gradually became more effective. Trade and economic activity expanded steadily. The Mediterranean remained one of the busiest commercial regions in the world. Indian merchants transported spices, textiles, and precious stones across the Indian Ocean, while silk from China remained one of the most valuable luxury products available. These trade networks connected distant civilizations and helped spread goods, knowledge, and cultural influences across continents. Despite Roman military successes, one important reality became increasingly clear. Germania would not become another easy Roman province. The campaigns of Germanicus restored Roman prestige and recovered part of what had been lost, but they did not permanently solve the challenge of controlling the region. The Germanic tribes remained independent, and Arminius remained a powerful symbol of resistance. As the period between 15 AD and 20 AD came to an end, Rome could claim important victories. It had demonstrated military strength, recovered sacred standards, and restored confidence after years of humiliation. Yet the empire had also learned a valuable lesson. Even the strongest power in the world had limits. Not every land could be conquered, and not every enemy could be completely defeated. The rivalry between Germanicus and Arminius became one of the defining stories of the ancient world. Their struggle represented more than a conflict between two men. It symbolized the clash between empire and independence, expansion and resistance, power and freedom. The consequences of their actions would continue influencing European history for generations. And as the world moved toward the years ahead, new political changes, new rulers, and new mysteries were already beginning to emerge, preparing the stage for the next chapter in humanity's long and fascinating story.